Hey Batman fans, Minutia Minute here. Another week, another stack of Batman books. Unlike last week, this week is a hefty stack. A pretty tall order. This isn't even everything that came out. I didn't pick up this week Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries. I haven't been reading that. It started before I started this weekly Batman show. And I didn't pick up Pennyworth, which I'm not watching the show. Just not really particularly interested in it. But I did pick up pretty much everything else, so let's see what's in the stack. Like the second week of the month is the week that DC drops a lot of their tie-in books. For October, this week is no exception. So we finally got Harley Quinn, the animated series, issue number 2. I really enjoyed the first one. I've actually already had a chance to read issue 2. I just think that this book is really funny. If you like the cartoon, they do a really good job capturing it, and I would recommend picking up this book if you're into it. Also out this week is Batman 89, issue 3 of 6. I've also already had a chance to read this book, and I'm just not going to say anything. I'm going to wait until this 6-issue series wraps up so I can give you my full thoughts on what is basically Batman 3, not Batman 2, because Batman Returns is in continuity in this, even though stylistically it's much more in tune with Batman 89 than Batman 92, which from a design standpoint was actually quite a bit different than Batman 89. A tie-in book that I was kind of on the fence about picking up, but ended up grabbing it just because I thought it might be kind of a fun read. I haven't had a chance to watch this on HBO Max, but they're doing those Batman audio adventures. Kind of curious about it, and so I did go ahead and pick up the 80-page giant Batman audio adventures special. I don't understand how I'm watching a podcast that's streaming on a video service. I don't know exactly how that works. I haven't had a chance to look into it, but I do plan on watching it. I'm actually pretty excited about the idea of Jeffrey Wright as Batman. And so when I get around to watching / listening to that, this will be a good companion piece for it. So I haven't read it yet, but did pick it up. And then last but not least for tie-ins, Batman the Imposter came out this week under DC's Black Label. And I'm not 100% sure if this is supposed to officially tie in, but this is from the writer of the upcoming The Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. I'm sort of excited for that movie. I don't know, I really like Matt Reeves as a director. I really enjoyed his Planet of the Apes movies. I think Jeffrey Wright showing up again here as Commissioner Gordon, I think is kind of a cool idea for Commissioner Gordon, and I'm really excited to see what they do with the Riddler. On the flip side, Robert Pattinson, I'm not entirely sold on. The costume, I'm not entirely sold on, so a little bit on the fence. And normally I probably wouldn't have picked up a book like this. The main reason I went ahead and picked this up actually was for the art. Really dug the Green Arrow that Andrea Sorrentino did back in the day, and always wanted to see what their Batman would look like. So I've never read, it says on the back here, Andrea Sorrentino did Joker Killer Smile. I never read that, so I'll have to go back and check that out. But in the meantime, I'm definitely excited to pore over the art in this, see what the story's about, and see if it gives us any clues into what this new Batman movie is going to be like. Alright, so then moving on to some of the core Batman titles this week, we basically got 4 of them. First up, we have Future State Gotham number 6, which I won't be reviewing today because it's going in my Future State pile. I haven't gotten a chance to dig into that yet. I really need to go through it. I'm hoping to do that here in the next couple of weeks. I just haven't had time, but I am still picking it up, so I have everything ready to go. Kind of in the same vein, I Am Batman number 2 came out this week. I thought issue 1 of this was pretty decent, not necessarily mind-blowing, so curious to see how issue 2 turns out. Then we also have The Joker, number 8, with, of course, my favorite supporting storyline with Punchline. Left off on a couple pretty good cliffhangers, actually, both for Joker and Punchline last month, so really excited to dig into this one. And then last but certainly not least, despite my best efforts, I said I was dropping this, but I picked up Batman Urban Legends. I really like Batwoman. And it seems to promise to be kind of a Halloween theme since it does have a Fear State tie-in. I don't actually remember this on the checklist. I meant to go back and double check that was actually supposed to be a Fear State tie-in, or if they just added it in later. But at the bottom, 4 frightful tales featuring Batwoman, The Outsiders, Azrael, and Professor Pig. So just, I don't know, I was in a Halloween mood and said, what the heck, it's got the Fear State tie-in, so I should probably read it and review it for you guys. So you'll get at least one more issue of Urban Legends from me. So let's dig into the reviews and see what's going on with Cape Crusader. So the first book I read this week was Batman Urban Legends number 8. Before actually digging into it, I broke out my trusty free comic book day Batman to take a look at the checklist. And sure enough, Batman Urban Legends number 8 was on the list, so I'm glad I picked it up. Ironically, I wasn't expecting it, but Arkham City, The Order of the World number 1 also listed as a Batman Fear State tie-in. Only the first issue is listed on here. I don't know that that adds up. But that out of the way, what did I think of Urban Legends this month? Well, we got 4 different stories in here. The first one probably was my favorite, and it was the Batwoman story. Batwoman and Disinformation Campaign, part 1 of 2. And this is basically the only real Fear State tie-in in the book. But basically you get Kate Kane, who needs to help clear Cassandra Cain's name. And it's sort of a lot of the book is her sort of discussing the Fear State situation with Red Alice, and then later Renee Montoya, who shows up, basically enlisting her help, trying to figure out how to clear the Cape Crusaders' name. I have not read Batwoman since the old days with J.H. Williams III, and I mean, I loved the book back then. Mark Andreyko took over sometime during New 52, and I pretty much immediately dropped it. Having read through this, it really put me in the mood to go back and reread those old J.H. Williams III books and possibly dig into Mark Andreyko and see how it holds up. It was fun having all these characters together. It was fun seeing Red Alice back. And, you know, the thing is, it wasn't even that particularly groundbreaking. I just kind of forgot how much I enjoyed these characters. I thought it was kind of interesting that, you know, this week we got Batman Urban Legends with Batwoman on the cover. Tomorrow, the Batwoman's TV series starts season 3. Today's the day that the big omnibus came out for Batwoman. So I do have to say that DC definitely seems to know what they're doing with their tie-ins. And trying to drum up interest. Kate Kane is definitely a character well worth drumming up interest for. So anyway, just thought it was kind of interesting. The second story this week was, actually, it's listed out of order. The second story was Professor Pig in Little Pig, Little Pig, which is basically just a one-off story with Professor Pig. To be honest, who did the art on this? It was, oh yeah, that's right. It was written and illustrated by Christian Ward. This is one of those art styles where you either love it or you hate it. It's got kind of a storybook quality to it, but you know, also a little on the horrific side. Honestly, this wasn't really for me. It's basically kind of juxtaposing Batman going after Professor Pig with Thomas Wayne telling Bruce Wayne a bedtime story about the 3 little pigs or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so then listed second but appearing third in the book is Azrael and Dark Night of the Soul, part 1 of 3. And this is when the book actually really started to fall apart for me. So, you know, I've said Urban Legends, it's like you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's great, but a lot of times, you know, half the book really isn't that worth your time. So I was reading through this Azrael story. And basically, first of all, from an art perspective, it really reminded me of Ghostmaker and the backup story in Batman. And, you know, I don't know if there's a parallel between Ghostmaker and Azrael as characters, really. Like, I mean, they do have different personalities, but they sort of equally fill a void on the Batman roster that doesn't really need to be filled, almost. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but as I was reading this, I was like, I don't really understand why this is here. Like, why do I care about this? Why are they doing this kind of weird anime thing again with like the Ghostmaker vibe from that backup story? And then it gets to the end And it says, editor's note, this story takes place before the events of Arkham City #1. But if you're reading that, this is written by Dan Waters, who's writing that Arkham City book. So just, I guess, public advisory. If you are into that, way into that, this might be a book you need to read. Unfortunately, I can't do a lot for you, so all I can do is give you the public service announcement about it. And then the last book, we have The Return of the Outsiders. So last time The Outsiders was in Urban Legends, I really got nothing out of it. I thought it was a giant waste of time. This time, I didn't actually read it because it takes place during Future State. And as a matter of fact, it's Future State plus 30 years. So intriguing as a concept. I leafed through it and thought that it had solid artwork. It was interesting seeing some of these teenage characters aged up quite a bit. So definitely interested to read this. But having said that, I have to get through some Future State stuff. So the next book I read this week was I Am Batman #2. So taking you guys back, I Am Batman issue 0, which I don't know if I actually reviewed that or if that was in the off month where I didn't review the books. But issue 0 really left me kind of cold, and it was mainly from Travel Foreman's art, which I thought was just super bland, super empty, just very unengaging. Fast forward a month to I Am Batman #1, I thought that the art was much better. I really got the cool factor of it and like why this Batman is like a cool Batman that's worth following around a little bit. Now fast forward another month and issue 2 left me pretty much cold again. And so what is it that lets this book down? Well, it's the art again, which blows my mind. I feel like they're really trying to push this as like a flagship Batman title. Like you gotta get out and you gotta read, see what's going on, and I Am Batman. But they have a different artist on every issue. And that just doesn't, like they're just not really giving this title much of a priority in terms of the art. The first issue was Travel Foreman. Second issue was Oliver Coipel. And then now we get Steven Segovia. Well, the cover is by Coipel again. You open the book up and it's got a much more, dare I say, almost Scott McDaniel element to it. I don't know, maybe it's just the way he draws like the teeth in their mouths or something. Yeah, and it's not necessarily that it's bad. It's just like Coipel did such a better job building that Fear State, Future State atmosphere. There's just a lot more kind of cool imagery going on, whereas the art in this just feels flat. From a story standpoint, I'd kind of forgotten that we left off with the death of anarchy, and this new Batman kind of finds himself caught in the middle of a city that thinks that it's okay to kill Cape Crusaders, which interesting idea for a story, I feel like. But it wasn't, it didn't have that much to do with this new Batman, to be honest. Like, he was just kind of an element in the story, investigating. But really, it was more about the cops and the city and, like, how they're handling this hatred of vigilantism in the city. And, I don't know. It had a lot more to do with cops, Batman, and his relationship with them more than it did with Fear State, which supposedly this is tying into. And it dovetails into Fox investigating Seer, who at the end of the read is a villain after Batman. So, I don't know. This book is beating to its own drum. It might just be the fact that I haven't read, the next Batman or next Batman Second Son. If you're reading this book, you're getting a lot more out of it. Let me know what I'm missing. But for me, this really wasn't done this The question is, can the Joker #8 redeem Batman this week? I'm happy to say, yes, it can. So we'll start with the Joker story here. As you can see, as usual, just fantastic art by Gil March. So we left off last month with this new Bane confronting Gordon, which she ultimately kidnaps him, escapes with him, and we get to dig into what this character is about, where she's from, what the implications of her existence is, and what she ultimately really wants from Gordon. If you're not reading the Joker, This is one you just gotta pick up. I would recommend waiting for the trade. It looks like the trade actually advertised in the book coming in November. Definitely a book that probably reads even better as a trade anyway. I really don't want to spoil it for you, but I will say that like the origins of this new Bane have some interesting implications for the old Bane. You do get, everyone likes to do their version of this moment from Nightfall, which we get Gilliam March's version here, which looked pretty cool. And I thought that it made her character really, really interesting, actually. And how she's going to interact with Gordon moving forward, I am very, very intrigued by. Now, as for Punchline, another good read for her. So we pick things up with Chapter 8. When we left off, Harper Row was locked in the penitentiary with Punchline, who is on the hunt for her. We get an interesting turn from Orca in this, in which we discover that Orca is actually on Harper Row's side, which is kind of a interesting twist. As everything is going to hell in a handbasket, we have Punchline putting her makeup back on, getting back into costume, and we are full-on Punchline mode, which is kind of cool to see. She interrupts Harper Row trying to escape and basically uses her plan against her to get the drop on her with the Royal Flush Gang. And will she get out? Well, you'll just have to read the book to find out. The only downside to Punchline Chapter 8 was we do have a fill-in artist on this. The art was serviceable. I just like the consistency, especially since these are shorter ones. I just wasn't expecting to get a fill-in artist on this. And I really, really like the art that's in there currently. So while the current art, again, was serviceable, it just wasn't, it didn't quite have the same effect, didn't quite have the same flourish. But once again, I say it every month, I really like Punchline as a character. I really like what they're doing with her in this backup story for Joker. Curious to see if that's going to get collected in the Joker trade or if we're just going to get a Punchline trade later down the road. My guess is the latter is probably what it'll be. I might actually pick that up on its own just so I can sit down and read the whole thing together. I think that might be kind of fun and interesting. So as a final recap for you, lots and lots of Batman tie-in books this week. A lot of different flavors of the Caped Crusader. For books in the main continuity, a little bit of a lighter week. Really, Fear State is probably the most direct tie-in, and even that, it's only the first story. I Am Batman, while technically a Fear State tie-in, feels like it's really just kind of doing its own thing and not particularly successfully or interestingly. Once again, the Joker killing it. You know, it's not always my pick of the week. Sometimes it's got some pretty stiff competition. This week was a little leaner on competition, so it's kind of a shoe-in as the book that I would recommend the most to pick up. But it's always a solid read. And James Tynion's writing on this, always top-notch. Better than what he's doing in the main Batman title, for sure. So, not a Fear State tie-in, worth a read. Go get the trade. I hope you guys enjoyed this week in Batman, and I hope you guys have a great week in comics. Have a good one.